Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more Legacy action. Today we are playing a Rakdos Sacrifice deck of my own design. This is a deck that I played against Phil, aka Thraben U, in our little Versus video a few weeks back, and I thought I would resurrect it and play an entire league with the deck. So what is the aim of the game here? Well, we are trying to leverage the process of sacrificing things. So our sacrifice outlets are Greater Gargadon. Important thing to note with Greater Gargadon is you can respond to the counter coming off. So if it's got one counter, you can still sacrifice a bunch of times, and this won't go down to 0 counters until you're ready for it to do. We also have ourselves Goblin Bombardment, so we can ping off our creatures to kill our opponent's stuff. We've got a Witch's Oven, which is mainly there to combo with Cauldron Familiar. Now this might seem a bit janky, but we're in a format right now that is quite stompy and aggro-y actually. So having a creature that could just block and then sacrifice to get to drain life and then just be a permanent blocker all the time is quite good, because what happens is we sacrifice the cat for a food, then we sacrifice the food to bring back the cat. So this is just a loop. We also have Mayhem Devil, so every time we're sacrificing we're getting another ping. So between Goblin Bombardment and Mayhem Devil we could like just shred people's boards quite easily. We have Forsaken Miner, a card that I quite enjoy. I really love this sort of effect of like some kind of small 1-mana guy that can come back in some way, shape or form. This one can't block, but whenever we commit a crime, which is when we target our opponent or our opponent's things, we may pay black and return this from our graveyard to the battlefield. This, alongside Goblin Bombardment, is just pay X in black mana, ping X times. That is actually quite a powerful thing to be doing, just spreading that damage around. We've got a Bloodghast that can be sacrificed as many times as we like, because it just keeps coming back with all of our lands. We have Souls of the Lost, which one might be one you're not familiar with. It's 2 mana. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card or sacrifice a permanent, and its power is equal to the number of permanent cards in our graveyard, and its toughness is equal to that number +1. So our entire deck, apart from the hand disruption spells, is going to be powering our Souls of the Lost. This is going to do quite a lot of work for us. If we want a big guy, it also gives us another sort of one-off sack outlet. But what this allows us to do, alongside Gargadon, is sacrifice lands. And why would we want to sacrifice lands? Well, it's my sweetheart, Eumidian Hatchery. I adore this card, and it's really good in this deck, because we can just get some free tokens along the way for something we want to be doing anyway, which is adding mana. And then we sacrifice it to Souls of the Lost or Greater Gargadon. All of a sudden, we've got like 4 or 5 little guys that can block, attack, and then also ping. Our deck is very tricksy and surprisingly resilient. There is also a Stitcher Supplier in here, so we can mill over some stuff to try and find our Bloodghasts, our Cabal Therapies, and our Forsaken Miner. Obviously, the Cauldron Familiar as well can be useful in that front. As for the sideboard, we've got some answers to things like Grafdigger's Cage and for Meltdown and Shenanigans. We've got 3 Sheoldred's Edict, because we're going to be pretty good at killing little creatures, so we need to have something for the big creatures. We've got some Pyroblasts, which can deal with the combo decks that our hand disruption might not be able to do as much against sometimes, so like the show and tell decks that might be protecting with a Veil of Summer against our hand disruption or whatever, we can then Pyroblast a show and tell on the stack. Then we have some Graveyard Hate in the form of Spellbomb. This sacrifices, so it kind of goes in with our theme. You could definitely play something more akin to like Fairy Macabre or whatever in this slot. But we're trying to lean into the theme a little bit and see if we can get away with it. We do have a bunch of hand disruption as well, so we're not just completely cold to those sorts of decks. And then we have 3 Claim the Firstborn. This is a card you might not be familiar with. It's a 1-mana sorcery. Gain control of target creature with mana value 3 or less until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until end of turn. So what this is going to do is we're going to steal our opponent's Barragoyf. We're going to attack our opponent with a Barragoyf, get a trigger, then we're going to sacrifice their Barragoyf to our own synergies. That is the plan for this one, and this is just going to be better than a Fatal Push for us a lot of the time in our deck. So that's why we're running it here, because of all the synergies we have with it in our list. And that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoy this one. I'm looking forward to this. I'm a big fan of these sorts of like grindy graveyard ping decks. And maybe now that Blue-Black Reanimator has kind of fallen by the wayside, there won't be loads and loads of graveyard hate for us to get stuck on here. Okay, like, subscribe, become a YouTube or Patreon member. That really does help me out. It doesn't cost you very much. From as little as $1 a month, you can become a YouTube member and see my videos early. Alright, let's get stuck in and do some sweet black sack and crack action. If you've been watching my content and thinking, I'd like to play some Legacy too, then check out 3for1 Trading, one of Europe's leading Magic the Gathering retailers. They have weekly offers and upload new cards every Wednesday. And it's not just Legacy stuff they sell. They have a beautiful selection of vintage and old school cards too. Support from sponsors like 3for1 Trading make it possible for me to put out videos and help keep Legacy alive, so why not give them some love? Click their link in the description below and use my code COW3 to enjoy free worldwide shipping on your first order over 500 euros. Our opener only has one land in it. That is not the number of lands I would like to see, but all we need is one more land, and this hand is absolutely wonderful. We're on the draw, so we've got 2 draw steps to find it. Technically, we need 3, statistically speaking, but we still have a bunch of things we can play, so I will keep this one lander. Watch us get Wastelanded and cry. Eumidian Hatchery. Mox Diamond. So our opponent's probably on some variant of Lone Pox. Malevolent Rumble. Yep, there's the Smallpox. So we're going to see probably the Marsh Flats going to their hand here, because the Hogak is the same in their hand or in play. So it all makes sense. It's better for us to play out the Witch's Oven here, because if our opponent has a Smallpox, we won't lose the creature. Whereas if we find any land at any point, we can just get this going. And this is going to be a really hard engine for our opponent to actually beat. Now, they might just be able to go through it with a Hogak and then, sure. I think if they Smallpox this turn, there's the Wasteland we don't want to see. But if they Smallpox this turn, they can play the Hogak as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay, we are. This is like the best draw that our opponent can have, I think, with the turn 1 Rumble, turn 2 Smallpox plus Hogak. So we're in a spot of bother. Bloodghast, you can go. You don't mind being in the graveyard. So then they can tap these and get the Hogak back. I would describe this as a problem, because this is not a creature that we get to block with our Cauldron Familiar. The Pox decks tend to have between like 1 and 3 Hogaks. Alright, this will get back our Bloodghast. Then I will sacrifice this Bloodghast. Then I will go and get a basic Swamp here. And then I will play the Cauldron Familiar after our Bloodghast comes back again. We drain life for 1. It's still entirely possible for us to win this game. Might not be the easiest thing in the world, but it's possible. Their own land is ticking them down a bit. We can put randomly high amounts of damage onto people. Oh, are you kidding me? Yikes. Okay, so we lose our Witch's Oven. I think our chances of winning this game are looking a little bit on the slim side now. So we're going to take 10 on this attack. We can't block because of Bloodghast. We could bring back a Cauldron Familiar. I'm going to do this now. So we can be not dead for a turn, but how much does that actually help us? Go Cauldron Familiar. Drains life for 1. And then if we play this one, we're going to stay at 11, so our opponent can hit us down to 1. We crack in for 3 here. If we can find a red source, we kill our opponent next turn, because we can play the Bombardment and then we have enough stuff to sacrifice. Now, our opponent needs to not cast certain things here. Okay, none of these cards that they've just shown us actually stop. I guess the Eldrazi Spawn might be able to get in the way. They've just paid a life, so it doesn't matter. Alright, they're holding back their flyers now. I think that's very smart. We're not blocking here. We have a Barrow in hand. Forsaken Miner, that's not the one we needed. So we are just dead on the crackback. That's unfortunate. If we drew, let's just work out what would happen if we drew the red source. So we play this Goblin Bombardment. We attack, they block like 3 things. They take 1, and then we ping them for 4. That's not good enough. We could ping one of them. We could ping both of these down straight away. And then we'd have to ping down all 3 of them though. And then we get 2 damage in. And then we ping them for 1. So no, it wouldn't have been enough because of the way our opponent correctly attacked there. A Gargadon would have been an interesting one if we had the potential. So what do we need in a matchup like this? I quite like having a Shenanigans here. Our opponent's going to have Chrome Moxes, possibly as a Saga, and just being able to recur this over and over again is pretty good. I am interested in these Nihil Spellbombs. The Sheoldred's Edict just to kill Hogak is an option. But ideally, we want to just be able to ignore the Hogak and just go bigger. Like, our opponent had the fastest draw they can have in their entire deck. And most of the time, their deck is a lot slower and grindier. So I think we're going to keep hold of these. I don't think we need as many Souls of the Lost if our opponent's going to be blowing up our own stuff for us. We could take the Claim of the Firstborns to steal their Barrogoyfs, but there's a lot of stuff in their deck that this doesn't really do very much against. On top of that, the way our deck's constructed is just very good against Barrogoyf anyway, because we can block and sack, and it's like, oh, that's really annoying for them. Maybe we get rid of a couple of Cabal Therapies as well, because we're not trying to play in their hand as much. Maybe we want more Souls of the Lost because it can check a Hogak. We just get rid of these Cabal Therapies entirely. I don't think we want the Sheoldred's Edict. We could board in a Meltdown, but I don't like the Meltdown that much. I think it's just the Shenanigans we want. What is their Graveyard Hate going to be? Endurance? Maybe? Alright. We can play around a decent chunk of Graveyard Hate. I don't think they're going to have Grafdigger's Cage, but I could be wrong. Okay, a little bit more land than I would like, but I will take it. I'm going to play out... How many Badlands do we have, actually? I think we have the full 4. Okay, so I'm going to play out this Badlands to try and bait a potential Wasteland. So if they're spending it on this, it doesn't matter. Okay, they've gone to 5 cards, so we're just going to Thoughtseize them straight away. 1-for-1 trades are going to favour us as well, because we're starting with more resources. Pox has kind of fallen off a little bit the last week or so. We want to keep fetch lands because they give us additional utility. Let's Thoughtseize you. Mox Diamond, Eumidian Hatchery, Orcish Blade Martyrs. So if we just get rid of the only thing that does anything in their hand, then we are doing alright. We've got 3 basics, so this Ghost Quarter is not going to be like a strip mine. I assume they're just going to discard the Ghost Quarter here. Oh, they drew an Underground Mortuary. Okay, so we still have perfect information. I'd like to draw a 1-drop here. We did not draw a 1-drop. We know about this Ghost Quarter, so we're just going to keep fetching Badlands, I would say. We didn't need to fetch here, actually. I don't know if I want to play this. So this would be a 2-3, so we could just start the clock going. Or we could get this Greater Gargadon online. I think I'm going to get the Gargadon online, and we shouldn't have fetched. They're just going to start stacking up their Eumidian Hatchery. They can Ghost Quarter their own Hatchery to make some guys. But at some point, Mayhem Devil will just ruin their day. A Thoughtseize. So we're going to lose this Mayhem Devil, which is annoying because it's so good against their 1/1s. They're probably just reading Souls of the Lost. It's not a card that sees a lot of play. Okay. Yeah, we could have had a Surveil land in this turn cycle instead of what we did. Stitcher's Supplier. I am down for Stitcher's Supplier action. I'm going to... I could sacrifice this now with a shot to hit a Bloodghast off of this land, or we could just sacrifice it to the Souls of the Lost and not really lose anything. Okay, let's go and get one of our swamps at this point, I think. Let's sacrifice our Stitcher's Supplier. It's going to get us deeper into the deck. We did not find a Bloodghast. But we have just made an 8/9 creature. Smallpox is obviously very good for our opponent here. But this is a 2-turn clock. They can obviously Ghost Quarter their own Hatchery, which looks like a thing they might be interested in doing quite soon. Our Gargadon ticks down. Do I want this Shenanigans? I can cut my opponent off of green. That's actually kind of interesting. Although they're just going to get green off this Ghost Quarter, aren't they? So I don't want to do that. Another Gargadon. Not the banger I was hoping for. I'm going to play this land out first, because we can Surveil land in a second, which might grow our guy. So they're going to get some guys. And we're going to be in chump block mode here. Is there any point surveilling now? I don't think so. We've got many Gargadons coming along soon. So these will also be big enough to trade with a Hogak if we need to do that. Our creatures not having trample is problematic, but the idea is that we have enough ping in our deck between Mayhem Devil and the Goblin Bombardment that we can just ping down little guys. So they might attack for 1 and block for 1 here. That seems reasonable. Let's go and get our Raucous Theater. Goblin Bombardment. Is this actually what we want to be doing right now? It's very good if we can find some stuff to actually sacrifice to it. But that means we're waiting another turn. Are we just going to... Yeah, I think we put this into the graveyard. We could just get rid of the Zuran Orb. So they have to get the hatchery tokens now. Forsaken Miner. Oh, that's pretty good, isn't it? So we're going to blow up this Zuran Orb. And then we're committing a crime, so we get to get this guy back. Get some hatchery tokens. And some life. I will get back my miner. Kind of wish we had this Goblin Bombardment now. So lovely. So again, for diminishing returns each turn. And we might just be able to do a big Greater Gargadon turn at some point. Like if they're left with like 1 blocker, we might just be able to sail through and get them all down. But our opponent is living off the top. We are also living off the top. But we have some resources that can do stuff over here. The Urza Saga is a little bit annoying, but we can just Shenanigans for their construct tokens. Alright. 2 of these. We're not going to Shenanigans this turn. We'd love to draw a Goblin Bombardment. That'd be among the best draws. A Mayhem Devil. Okay, well that is absolutely banging here, isn't it? Our opponent's got no cards in hand. So we're going to sacrifice this land. Ping down one of their guys. We're going to sacrifice another land. Ping down another one of their guys. And then we smash through for lethal. Pretty cool. Happy with how that went. Did we see anything that makes you want to do things differently? No. I think we're just going to go back in. I guess a Shadow Spear could be a little bit annoying for us. Because we can't just like do our whole block and ping thing. But I think we're okay with how our deck is constructed. Shenanigans being our opener is actually pretty nice here. We've got a lot of one half of our deck. I'll keep this. Our opponent's already mulled to 6 here. Swamp Mockstein. We're going to see one of the fast hands with like Malevolent Rumble. Could be. Could just be like a Life from Alone getting back a forest. Witherbloom Command. So draining life and they're getting back a land. So they're going to get back this hatchery and they found a loam for their graveyard. That's pretty good for them. Play this one out and get a swamp because there's a chance they can mill over a wasteland here. Let's get our Witch's Oven in, I think. I don't really want to have red sources that much. We have one mountain in our deck and I don't really want to fetch a basic here. The other option was to just play the Gargadon. But I think this is a permanent that could do a lot of work for us now that we've also seen one of the Witherblooms gone. Okay, this is not a card we care about in the slightest. Now this is a card we care about a great deal. Okay, they had the Hogak. That is unfortunate for us. Are we playing a Bloodghast out or are we playing a Goblin Bombardment out? I think it's the Bloodghast. We're going to struggle to get this Souls of the Lost quite at the size we want it. Opponent hits us for 10 this turn. And this is a little bit awkward. I wish our opponent would stop making turn 2 Hogaks. Life from Loam getting back. Whatever, that's fine. Yep, Bloodghast can't block, so it's just going to sit there. Greater Gargadon. How much damage how much toughness can we put in front of this? Well, first step is going to be attacking with our Bloodghast, isn't it? And then we could sacrifice this. This is all very, very awkward, isn't it? So if we sacrifice this, this gives us another permanent to sacrifice to a potential Gargadon. We can play out the Badlands. Bring back our Bloodghast. Then we can play the Souls of the Lost, sacrificing the Bloodghast. Is discarding a card better, actually? Discarding a card is better. So discard a Gargadon here. This gives us a 2-3. And then we can go suspend this Gargadon. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we can make this a 7-8. That's really annoying that it can't be slightly larger. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Damage away from killing the Hogak with it. And we have to block. Okay. Are we doing like a minimal block? I guess. I'm going to dredge that loam opponent. This game, like if their Hogak comes down one turn later, I think we're absolutely odds on to win the game. Which is kind of wild. We lay them back some wastelands. That's fine. Our lands have to go under the bus, I think, this turn anyway. So if we block here, we're currently taking 5, 6, 7. So we need to sacrifice some stuff. I'm going to sacrifice this Bloodghast. That's the obvious one. So now we're taking 4, 5, 6. We need to sacrifice one more permanent. Is it the Witch's Oven? It's probably the Witch's Oven. So now we're taking 3, 4, 5. If we sacrifice these 3, just one too small. We can't get the Gargadon into play either. Do I want this extra 1 damage? Or this extra 1 life? I don't think so. Maybe we're supposed to because of all these Orc armies. We just needed one more turn before the stupid Hogak came down and ruined our life. Eumidian Hatchery. Well, that's a reason to have an extra life, isn't it? So if we go Bombardment, play Hatchery. If we'd have had one more life. Presage you on the Bombardment. I'll sacrifice it to the Gargadon. Oh wait, it's only artifact creature or land, isn't it? It doesn't sacrifice those. Yeah, we're dead here. But let's say this didn't happen. Let's just see how close we could actually come. Because I find these sort of things interesting to map out with what the deck is capable of. So we play the Bloodghast. Let's say we then ping down this guy. We could tap this for mana. If we had one more life, let's say. We'd have one fewer land. But that'd be fine. So we tap this for 1. We sacrifice this land to the Gargadon. The Gargadon's on 6. We get a guy. We can ping the other guy. And then we go 5, 4, 3. And I don't know if we can get the Gargadon in. We just needed one more turn before Hogak. That's what really happened there. Let's go to round 2. We're on the play. We don't have access to our red spells with this opener. We can Cabal Therapy into Bloodghast. I don't really want to do a blind Cabal Therapy though. His hand is fine if we draw a red source, which we are relatively odds on for. Let's have a look. We got 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 red sources. That's 4-ish draws to get it. Maybe we should bin this one off. I wish one of these was if I wish this was a Thoughtseize, then I'd feel pretty good with this hand. We can't just Cabal Therapy out in the blind like that. It's tough. Alright, I'm going to keep it, and we are going to blind Cabal Therapy. I'm going to name Brainstorm, I believe. If they mulligan really low, then we might name Lion's Eye Diamond. Okay. We're playing against Mono Blue Cloud Post. I guess it could be Blue Black Cloud Post as well. All these cards are in both versions. The deck's very similar. It's basically just one splashes for Barragoyf and one doesn't. So we can nab both of these cards quite soon. Okay, they drew a Cloud Post for turn. A Stitcher's Supplier. Would I like that, or would I like a Bloodghast? I think we'll play a Stitcher's Supplier, because we could get back something in the graveyard here. Like a Bloodghast or a Forsaken Miner. Okay, so we have the Forsaken Miner. So I will play this Eumidian Hatchery. And I will Cabal Therapy my opponent, sacrificing Stitcher's Supplier. We're going to pay for the Forsaken Miner to come back. Then we're going to Cabal Therapy and take out Khan the Great Creator. 2 cards off that. And I'll say that's a pretty good turn. If we can find a red mana source, and then we're away, I think. So we can turn these into a bunch of guys. Playing a Nexus. They got 3 mana here. This is going to be a Thundertrap Trainer, I would imagine. Yep, they're filtering it through. What would you like to show us? The One Ring. That's a pretty good Magic the Gathering card, isn't it? We're surprisingly good at fighting around it, though, because of how we get to ping our opponent a bunch. We're going to attack with this Forsaken Miner. I think the plan is Bloodghast and be mana efficient. This game isn't really about our life total. It's about if our opponent gets to stabilize or not. We need that red source deck. And we still have spells to cast, but we can't do the best things our hand can do until we find a red source. Because the combination of these 2 cards will give us so much damage that we can just ping our opponent to death quite quickly. There's an Ancient Tomb. They do have to tap this to take life to play this One Ring, which is good for us. They should tap the Cloud Post for this. Yeah, here it is. Now, obviously, this card is one of the most powerful things you can do in the format. And it's going to be giving them some inevitability if we can't draw red and ping them out. Nope, not a red source. Is there any point attacking here? They're not going to block. They might do. I'll attack with this one. They have protection, but our creatures can't block anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant. Might as well try and get our opponent to make a mistake. We're spending a lot of our own life in these hatcheries. But if we can find a red source, we get to cash them in a big way with these Gargadons. There's this tower. They now have basically infinite mana over there. 3, 6, 7. We're going to see... We could see a Nugan here. That would be less than ideal for us. It's another One Ring. That is not a big display of strength. Are they going to keep the one with 2 counters on? No. There's no point, really. It ends up being kind of similar. They get 3 cards off the one next turn, but this gives them 1 and then 2 next turn. Stock up as well. They did this in a way where they could tap their Ancient Tomb without taking damage, because the One Ring gives you protection, and the Ancient Tomb deals you damage. It's not life loss, so you are protected from it. Come on, red sauce. They should be getting in for 1 point damage here. They missed it. We drew a land. Play this Cauldron Familiar. This does work underneath the One Ring because it's life loss, and it doesn't target. Do I play this land out, or do I hold it for Bloodghast purposes? I think I'm okay playing it out here. Wish it was a red source, though, because this could have been an amazing setup turn for us. If we can cast a Gargadon and a Bombardment, we can kill our opponent, because this is 5 damage, this is 3 damage, then we have all of these. 12, plus tapping this is 13. Eldrazi Confluence. So you're going to kill my guys that come back. Cool. I can live with that. This is also a thing that can flicker the One Ring, so they aren't dying to the counters on it. I'm going to see a Chalice of the Void, X equals 1. That's fine. We've gone past the stage of that mattering, I think. Am I going to tap this Eumidian Hatchery? I guess not, because I pressed the wrong pass priority button. Red source. We found a red source. Hallelujah. I'll get some Bloodghast back, please. Is there a way we can sacrifice these now? No. And we go and get... Might as well be a mountain. And then we'll suspend the Gargadon. And then we have our opponent dead next turn. And this wins potentially through an Ugin. We have to resolve our Goblin Bombardment to do that. That's the one little caveat in our plan. But we can just make all the guys you've ever seen. This is going to be quite a big burst of life. So take them up to 15. We're about to make 10 guys. That's 10, 11, 12, 13 damage we hit our opponent for. Thundertrap Trainer with Offspring. This is going to be more blockers. That's going to be pretty good for our opponent. This is probably going to get them a counter spell that's going to mean that we're going to struggle to get through. Okay, an Ugin. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 4, 5, 6, 7. So they can play an Ugin this turn. I'd rather you didn't, opponent. Ugin. So this game, we kind of lost this. Well, we might not have lost it, but the thing that's cost us this game, if we lose it, is going to be just not drawing the red source in the correct amount of time. Our opponent's on 13. I'm going to play a challenge to 0 and try and exile one of our Bloodghasts. I'm going to sacrifice that Bloodghast. If our opponent doesn't have a Force of Will, then we still win this game, though. I guess they still have an activation of this. That's another 3 life we need to factor in. But that's going to be cancelled out by the 1 ring. So we just need to deal 13 to our opponent, which is not going to be that difficult given the resources we have. Drawing a Thoughtseize would be... No, it wouldn't be because they got the Chalice, right? We just have to get through. Okay, so they've got another one of these Ugin triggers. This is going to be countered, but it's still going to give them a way of removing our Bloodghast. And 3 mana. This gains them 3 life as well, right? No. Yeah. No, this is just the mana, right? So they don't gain the life. It's the draw a card that gains them the life. What are they doing for 4 mana? Is this just a little mini Kozilek's command to really gum up the ground? We have 10 points of flying damage, right? And our opponent's going to take 3 from the 1 ring. I'm no mathematician, but those numbers seem to favour us. Maybe they have... So it's just exiled our Bloodghast. They didn't make spawns, so we just won the game, I think. Tap this for mana, tap this for mana. Sacrifice this. Make a bunch of guys. Sacrifice this, make more guys. They could have Tishana's Tidebinder, which can stifle the damage trigger off of the 1 ring. So we're not out of the woods yet. Guess we swing in with our massive army. Attack them. So they need to have Force of Will, blue card, and a Tishana's Tidebinder to win this game. Now, they have had the 1 ring active for quite some time. Alright, they didn't have it, and we get to bombard them out. Beautiful stuff. I thought we had lost that game for a while because we couldn't find our red source. But our deck is powerful, and we got to do the thing. How would I like to tackle what our opponent's doing? Ways of making them sacrifice. Also, an interesting thing to know about this makes them sacrifice. Mayhem Devil, any sacrifice, any player, gives us a ping. So we actually get a ping off our Sheoldred's Edict, which is cool. Pyroblasts are interesting for things like stock up. Shenanigans, we probably want one of these because they're going to have Khans and things. So there's potentially 7 cards we're interested in. The Cabal Therapy Thoughtseize feels very strong in this matchup. The Cauldron Familiar isn't great. It can grind them out from behind the 1 ring, but that's not really what we're trying to do here. So I think we're going to trim on those a little bit. That gives us 4 slots. That's like maybe these things. And then if we want Pyroblasts, we need to make other cuts. Do we want Pyroblasts? Like the big scary things they have are colorless. So I don't think we want those. I think we're going to run it like this. We can always adjust for game 3. We didn't see anything that made me think they have Baraghois, but we're not too bad against Baraghois anyway because of the way our deck functions. Alright, I'll keep this one. We can ping our opponent. We can play some Bloodghasts. Ancient Tomb. Chalice for 1 perhaps? It is a Chalice for 1. That doesn't actually impact our hand right now. There's a bunch of stuff that it does impact in our deck, like the thing we immediately draw. I will play out a Hatchery and just start cranking this up. I think we play the Bloodghast before we play the Bombardment. I will be activating this Hatchery at end step just to get some guys ready. Stitcher's Supplier. This gets countered by the Chalice of the Void, so I don't really want to do anything with that. Let's just play Your Friend and Mine Bloodghast. I am sorry that it is this Art of Bloodghast I happen to have instead of the classic. They can Kozilek's Command and exile this, but they're spending 4 mana just to exile our Bloodghast. That's kind of low stakes to me. I wonder if we want Meltdowns because of the Chalices. Now, we're pretty good at playing through them. Like, our Forsaken Miner, we can just play, it goes to the graveyard, then we can get it back. It's basically just the hand disruption that this shuts off, but if we're on the play, our hand disruption gets to come down before this, for game 3 anyway. If there is a game 3, just thinking ahead. And there's this tower. It's the 1 ring. Oh, it's Khan. Okay, how do you feel about Khan? And what is it going to find them? Ensnaring Bridge or something? We can be Ensnaring Bridge. That's why I'm not too... Okay, there's just going to be a 1 ring. I'm going to attack the Khan here. And I'm going to play a Goblin Bombardment, which allows us to finish off the Khan. A Force of Will. Okay, we don't get to finish off the Khan. Would I like a Raucous Theater here? I think I would. The other option here is you play Stitcher's Supplier, because it being in the graveyard does help for our Soul of the Lost, or whatever it's called. So we're going to see this one ring, but we can still attack into the Khan. We haven't got their big mana engine up and running yet. So this is the one ring. They could have a Dismember. The Khan could plus on the one ring. Yeah, and then they can block with the one ring. That's pretty cool. We could just not fetch with this. If we don't fetch with this, we can then play this Mayhem Devil and crack this to ping the Khan. That's somewhat interesting. Alright, maybe we're not going to get the Raucous Theater. Cabal Therapy works here, doesn't it? Should we go Badlands, cast the Mayhem Devil, sacrifice this for a Badlands, we'll ping the Khan for 1, and then we'll cast this Cabal Therapy, which will get counterspelled. Oh, we can't target them. We can target ourselves, it doesn't matter. It's going to get countered. And then we can Cabal Therapy, targeting ourselves again. We sacrifice this Bloodghast. This gives us a ping on the Khan. And that was a relatively successful turn. If we can find a Gargadon and start cranking out these Eumidian Hatchery tokens, our opponent's life total can just vanish. Yep, you tap that one ring. They didn't tap it during our turn, which I think was a mistake. I guess a lot happened and they maybe lost track of where we were, but they definitely should have tapped this in the end step. Stock up is good. This might give them access to a Planar Nexus, which will then jump them up a huge amount of mana next turn. So next turn is going to be a real big one. So if we can draw Shenanigans and crack this and then Thoughtseize them, I wouldn't mind. We're going to have to try and deal quite a lot of damage this turn, I think. A Badlands. Opponent is at 2 higher life total for us to get a hasty Bloodghast. Sack him for 3. Let's cast a very mediocre man. I think I do put this Stitcher's Supplier into the graveyard now as well. And we play this and get back our Bloodghast. Or do we hold it in case we draw something good next turn, and then we can sacrifice this and get both back, and that's an additional point of ping. Yeah, I think we're going to hold this, because I have a feeling we're about to get Ugined. Yep, you draw those cards, opponent. Have a nice time with that. Planar Nexus, we suspect they would have this after they had the one ring and stock up going. Here is another one ring. Okay, that's not so bad. If we sacrifice stuff at instant speed, we can ignore these anyway. So just dig in for their Ugins at this point. 4 mana. 5 mana. Is this Kozlet's command? No, it's another Khan with 1 mana available. So presumably we're seeing... Okay, a stock up. Are we seeing anything with the Khan? They could animate the one ring to protect the Khan, because we have lethal damage on the Khan if they don't do that. Yeah, that's what they're going for. Understood. Our opponent should have more cards in hand because they missed a tap on the one ring at one point. Okay, let's add some Eumidian Hatchery stuff. Gargadon is great here. Bloodstained Mire. This gives us a ping. Bloodstained Mire going. So we have 1 ping available, which we can put on a Khan. Very macabre. Okay, I'll sacrifice this. I'll ping the Khan down. We'll go and get a Raucous Theater here. Bring back the Bloodghast. This Eumidian Hatchery. Bloodghast back. And then they can exile our Stitcher's Supplier. These have got haste now, so we can send 2 of them at the Khan. That is actually quite interesting to me. If we send them all, we lose the Mayhem Devil, and we put 4 damage on the Khan so it can't mine us, so we're not dead to Lattice Lock. But then how are we winning is the problem. Mayhem Devil makes it very hard for us to win the game if we lose this, I think. I think we need to attack Khan with both of these. We get them back with haste next turn anyway, so it's not really a problem. It's just like a free 2 damage on the Khan. I would like to put more damage on the Khan. We just don't have one of our SAC engines, unfortunately. Now, our opponent did counter a SAC engine early on. If they didn't, then this game is over already. Can they Lattice Lock us? Because they would need to Lattice Lock and then also have something to stop our creatures killing the Khan. So I'm kind of hoping they can't do that. They minus the Khan, a fetch land kills it. Alright, they're getting an artifact. What is it going to be? It's a Walking Ballista. They can dump a boatload of mana into that one. So we get to kill the Khan on our next turn. Unless they're not going all the way in. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But this is not Force of Will mana because they would need to filter for the blue. It's another copy of the One Ring. Okay. But we still get to attack the Khan. But this is just kind of buying time and letting them develop more land so eventually they can just play a bunch of Ugins and blow our stuff up. If we have a Gargadon in our exile zone, then the Ugin is less scary. As it stands, this is very scary, because we're going to lose basically everything here. We've got 1 Bloodghast, so we do get to kill the Khan. This game is pretty close. Now, we've bricked off on a lot of lands. We have drawn more lands than spells. Have we drawn more land spells? I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. About even. About 50-50 on lands and spells, I think. Which is obviously not ideal when you're only playing like 18 lands or something in a deck. Our Bloodghast no longer has haste because of the life gain off of the Eumidian, which is probably going to be the thing that actually gets us here. Walking Ballista, exiling my guy. Alright, let's just F6 through the rest of this turn. I'm not sure what we can draw here that's good enough. It's certainly not another Eumidian Hatchery. I think I'm happy to scoop it up there. Alright, do I want some Meltdowns just for this Chalice? I don't think so. If we get our Thoughtseizes off early, then that's fine. I guess we could swap an Oven for a Meltdown. Or a Cat for a Meltdown. No, I think we're just going to go in again. I think deck is fine. Being on the play, maybe we'll draw a more proportionate lands and spells ratio here. And we'll be all good. Okay, we don't really have a SAC outlet. But we can apply some pressure. We're going to play the Stitcher Supplier first. Because if the Cauldron Familiar gets countered by a Chalice, it just comes back from the graveyard anyway. So it doesn't matter. We'll hold off on the fetch land because that can be a Surveil land later. It can be a ping for our Mayhem Devil, or it can be a returning of the Bloodghast. Oh, a Cabal Therapy, you say? I don't hate that one. I could just Cabal Therapy right now. Seems like a nice thing to do to our opponent. What are we going to name here? Chalice of the Void is probably their only early play, so maybe we just name that. Okay, we can rip apart their hand over the next couple of turns. Well, we can take the stock up. So they might even play the Sink into Stupor, because it means they have easier blue mana. Would have liked this Gargadon, though. So there is a tower. We get to take the stock up if we want it this turn. A Thoughtseize. Let's Thoughtseize our opponent here. A Chalice of the Void and a stock up. We take the stock up. Let's get a kitty cat down. Do I want to take this Chalice of the Void? Do I care about it, is the question. These Cabal Therapies are kind of important later on, maybe. I think we do just take the Chalice right now. Goodbye, Chalice of the Void. We have an answer for a Karn. The One Ring, not so much. Nexus, our opponent has lots of mana. They didn't draw the One Ring. One time, our opponent didn't draw a One Ring. That's not the legacy I know. Okay, let's get in a Bloodghast. I'm not going to take the Sink into Stupor. If our opponent Karns and minuses, then we can obviously take the thing that they've got. Go and post. Yep, we knew that was coming. Mayhem Devil. This could be pretty cool later on. Bash in with the Bloodghast. Play our Forsaken Miner. This is 4 mana. This is 5 mana. This is 6 mana. So we don't need to play the Cabal Therapy name in Ugin yet. We can do that next turn. Is this going to be a K command? This means that we could get stung by an Ugin next turn. We have an answer for Ugin, provided they can't interact with that. Are we losing here the Bloodghast? Or are they just going to draw cards? Yeah, they don't care about what we're doing. Makes sense. Our hand has been a little bit slow. We haven't had one of our enablers. Now, we did board out our Oven, which is an enabler that helps us out here. If we have the Devil in the Oven, we get to do quite a lot of pings. They left one card on top, so I like one of these pieces. Are we going to get Ugin this turn? If we do, that forces our hand on the Sheoldred's Edict. And we have to hope they don't have a Force of Will that they've drawn since we took the hand apart. Here comes Ugin. I'm not really sure why this is only a 7 mana card. It feels a lot stronger than 7 mana to me. They're going to add some mana. They're going to play something and bin off our miner. Oh, and the One Ring. Yeah, sure. Why wouldn't you have the One Ring? Yikes. We're in trouble. We do get to take out the Ugin. There's only 2 Ugins in the deck, and that's like the main thing that we care about. Like the Karn could obviously be a pain too. Eumidian Hatchery. A little bit late, unfortunately. Sacrifice a non-token creature of their choice. Note, we want each opponent to sacrifice a planeswalker of their choice. Okay, we cleaned up the Ugin. But not before it absolutely wrecked us. Yep. And now we're into One Ring Gaming, because this card is still legal. I don't think we're going to have this game. Our hand was a little slow, and our opponent's drawn quite nicely out of us taking their hand apart. There is a Karn, so they can lattice lock us next turn. Doesn't strike me as a thing I want to happen at all. Tormod's Crypt. Sure. That is not really... I appreciate that our opponent respects what we're doing, though. Thundertrap Trainer. Yep. Yeah, so our opponent's just got so many looks at things. And another One Ring to boot. Yikes. Thoughtseize doesn't work. Actually, no, it does work, because our opponent... Yeah, our opponent doesn't have protection this turn, do they? I kind of just want this Mayhem Devil, to be honest. I don't remember if the legend rule actually is Sacrifice or not. It might be, which will give us a bonus ping that our opponent might not expect if they play this other One Ring. Our opponent just has infinite mana, though. So we can Lattice Lock us, block for a turn, then play the One Ring and sit behind it. Or, yeah, we'll just have the Lattice going. But maybe if the legend rule is sacrificing, then we might be able to ping this guy. Our opponent should struggle to lose this one. Alright, just exiling this guy. How much mana do they have here? 1, 2, 3, 4. This taps a 4, 5. Okay, we're just Lattice locked now. Okay, yeah, that was just a generic game against the One Ring, I suppose. Our hand didn't quite come together. Maybe we could have mulliganed slightly more aggressively, looking for one of our engine pieces so that we can get our sacrifice stuff going. But we had a lot of hand disruption, and I figured we'd probably draw into what we need to, but didn't quite pan out, unfortunately. On to round number 3. Alright, we're into round number 3. What are we doing? We've got Miner, Lost Souls, Mayhem Devil. We've kind of got some of the pieces. I think I'll keep this one. I would like a Goblin Bombardment or a Gargadon. I don't think we're supposed to mulligan until we find them, but maybe we are. Maybe we're learning and that's a thing that we need to do. An island. Let's play Eumidian Hatchery and get a Forsaken Miner out. Do we have a way of sacking the Hatchery using our Souls of the Lost at some point? Baleful Strix. Our opponent could be ninjas. That's what I'm getting off of this Prismatic Vista. Ninjas don't run days. Is there any reason for me not to play my land out though? So let's Cabal Therapy our opponent here. What am I most worried about our opponent having? Ingenious Infiltrator? Oh, it's Kaito actually, isn't it? Kaito, Bane of Nightmares, we don't want to see. So they are ninjas. We were correct. If I sacrifice this to cast this, we will be able to just get this guy back straight away, I believe. It's a bit like the Poxwalkers seeing itself do stuff. So we're going to name Yuriko. Round C. Are they going to get busy with this guy? I don't think so. Oh, they are. I mean, they're probably just playing the other one. That makes sense. But we don't really mind trading Tamiyo. That is less ideal for us. Badlands. There's no point attacking because they can just block it with the Tamiyo, so we won't even clear any material off our opponent's board. Another card that I'm loath to keep playing against in Legacy. But next turn we can go Bloodstained Mire, sacrifice it, get a ping, play Souls of the Lost, sacrifice our Eumidian Hatchery, get a ping. We could also sacrifice the Miner twice as well. Thoughtseize. You can take one of my Souls of the Lost. That means our Souls of the Lost is probably sacrificing our Hatchery. 1/1's obviously pretty bad against Tamiyo, but pretty good against Baleful Strix. Alright, so I get to ping around one of their guys. It is whenever any permanent is sacrificed. So if you want to sacrifice clues, we get to ping your guys down. Which is pretty darn cool. I don't think this is the super secret tech to beat Tamiyo, but it is cool. What is this? Fatal Push. Okay. Goodbye, the best thing we had going on. That is a little bit sad. Kind of needed that to really pop off here. Let's Raucous Theater. Get our Surveil in. I don't think we need to be Thoughtseize. We need to be doing something here. Sacrifice the Hatchery. Let's get 4 1/1s and also get a 3/4. So the 3/4 can pressure Tamiyo a little bit alongside this Forsaken Miner. We can put 3 damage on a Tamiyo. Although obviously the Baleful Strix jumping in the way of this is annoying. We don't want to see a Brainstorm. I'm also glad that I managed to work out our opponent was ninjas purely from seeing Prismatic Vista and Baleful Strix. Another Baleful Strix. I do love Baleful Strix as a card. I don't know anyone who doesn't like this card. It's just a wonderful design, to be honest. Just nice and simple. It's a cute little bird. It's a perfectly good, fair card. It cares about combat. It's not blowing anyone out anywhere. Just a great piece of design there. They're going to get a clue. So they could sink into stupor and bounce our bigger creature. Right, they're cracking a clue here. This is going to be the 3rd one because they've played a Strix and their draw for turn. So this is annoying for sure. Because when this pluses, all of our our insects become useless. Thanks, Tamiyo. Glad you could exist. We have ways through this still. Drawing really bad cards isn't going to do it though. So if we attack with both of these, we trade off with the Baleful Strixes, and then what? These can't get in for damage. I think we just have to hold here, because we could draw a Goblin Bombardment, which allows us to ping these down and then also get the Tamiyo dead. Well, we're falling behind because Tamiyo is very strong. Yep, you keep plussing that Tamiyo. 4th Baleful Strix. Opponent has a very nice choice of basics as well, must be said. Mockingbird. So this is going to be another Baleful Strix. Oh no, they're going to make one of our guys. Oh, this is a flying 5/6. Yikes. That is a worry. We're not going to crack this because we can use it to ping. Greater Gargadon, you are a bit late, I'm afraid. I think we are absolutely toast in this game. We're basically just being soloed by the Tamiyo. These things are annoying, but without the Tamiyo, we get through them. If they just have other creatures, then we're fine. But just Tamiyo is just too strong for us. Very much a vibe in Legacy right now. Tamiyo is going to ultimate next turn. I assume we're getting bashed with the big boy here. Oh, they're coming in with a bunch of stuff. Okay, I'll take the trade here. And do we chump this? I don't think so. Kaito, Bane of Nightmares. Cool. Oh, this card is very good and does a lot of work against us. But if, you know, there wasn't a Tamiyo as the main problem, this is a manageable problem. We're not like a control deck where this becomes really hard to manage sometimes. Brainstorm just trying to make sure they have enough resources to get through to next turn. I think that attack was actually quite aggressive for our opponent, considering they have the ability to just draw their deck next turn. They might as well just keep as many blockers back as they can. But we need this turn to be real good. Goblin Bombardment, if we can resolve it, we can stop the Tamiyo from ultimating. We drew the Goblin Bombardment. What is the chances that this resolves? I guess I'll play out a land just in case our opponent has any sort of soft permission. 4 cards in hand. Do you have a Force of Will? I have a Force of Negation. They get to draw their whole deck. Cool. Yeah, this could have been a really interesting game if it wasn't for Tamiyo, to be honest. It just completely turned the game into a nothing fest, which is basically what Tamiyo does all the time. Let's have some of this sort of stuff. I'm pretty sure they have a Rakdos Cage as well. What do we want here? I think we might actually be chilling on Hand Disruption and just trying to play to the board more. And we need 2 more cuts if we're making this sort of alteration. What do we take out for these extra cards we're putting in? Could be like a Supplier. Could like trim on Supplier and Familiar. Try that. But we've got some answers in for Tamiyo. We also have Claim the Firstborn, so we can take any of their guys that they play that are large. Sheoldred's Edict can clean up Planeswalkers or spooky creatures. We have 1 Shenanigans for Rakdos Cage. They have 1 or 2 of them in their sideboard, I think. I was actually looking at Ninja Decklist earlier today, so I've got relatively fresh in my mind. It might have even been this player, because there's not many Ninja's players, so it could be that I was looking at this person's recent 5-0. I don't remember the name of the list I was looking at. Okay, we can keep this one. Our opponent has Thoughtseizes. They don't have Wastelands. They might have Harbinger of the Seas. So I think I will get a Mountain and just play on basics here, in case of Harbinger of the Seas. We're going to suspend the Gargadon here so it doesn't get Thoughtseized out of our hand. This gives us a Sacrifice engine, which is really important to get everything working. And then we can play Forsaken Miner holding up Pyroblast. Nobody's counterspelling Forsaken Miner. So the Pyroblast can hit the Baleful Strix, which might be something I'm interested in doing. Seeing a Brainstorm that is not flipping a Tamiyo is a good place for us. Because they need to get a 2-drop down that can then flip into one of their ninjas. So if we can just like Pyroblast it and then drop our guy on an empty board, that's going to be really strong. Undercity Sewers. Alright, that's not going to be making a guy. And they're not playing in a Tamiyo either. It's all good. We have a couple of choices here. We can play the Mayhem Devil into counter magic, or we can hold up 3 mana's worth of spells. Next turn, we can play the Mayhem Devil with Pyroblast backup and a fetch land, which is what I'm going to do because I think that is just stronger. I'm going to tap out for something cool here. I'm actually going to Pyroblast this because they need something to get the engine rolling for their ninja creatures. But now we get to play Mayhem Devil and ping this down, in theory. I would very much like this to resolve, please. It is not going to resolve, unfortunately. Getting forced. I'm okay trading this because it stops our opponent from having a creature that can turn into a ninja. Yeah, our opponent doesn't want to lose it for those exact reasons. So they're going to get to hit us with something like a Yuriko here. And start recouping the card advantage that they've lost to things like Force of Will. That's the only card advantage they've lost so far. It's Yuriko. What's going to be on top of your library? Fatal Push. Well, not amazing against us, depending on what sort of draw we have. Like, killing the Mayhem Devil was good, but they've already managed to deal with one of those anyway. They didn't really want to spend it on a Forsaken Mire. Okay, Raucous Theater. Let's have a look at you. Mayhem Devil. Yes, please. Can I please have this one? We can. Okay, so we can crack this for a Badlands and ping down the Baleful Strix. Actually, we might as well get another swamp just in case there is a Harbinger of the Seas somewhere. Now we can make our opponent sacrifice a creature. That gives us a ping. We're in a good spot now. We can bin off some lands to get some pings as well. We can do the machine gun thing using the Forsaken Mire and the Gargadon. Murderous Cut. Would I like to ping this down for free, more or less? I think so. I'm going to sacrifice this Forsaken Mire. This is going to ping the Uriko. I'm going to sacrifice this Forsaken Mire. Ping the Uriko. Let's bring back the Forsaken Mire again. And then this is dying anyway. So we're going to sacrifice this Mayhem Devil, which does see itself leave and gives us that third and final ping. And then our Gargadon is getting pretty close to coming out to play. We could jam it in next turn if we want to. Just sack a bunch of lands, dome our opponent for 9. I guess we could have sacrificed more stuff to make sure this is lethal. But this does get targeted by a Hydroblast and stuff, so I'm not sure if I want to go all in on it when we don't have to. Or maybe just getting another ping off by sacrificing a land would have been okay. We could probably spare 2 lands at this point, to be honest. And then we could have had 2 more pings. And that would have given us exactly lethal. Maybe that's the better line here. But our opponent's got a bunch of mana. They were tapping mid-sequence as well. So there's definitely something going on over there. Goblin Bombardment. Big fan of this one. This combo with the Forsaken Mire is one of my favourite things to be doing in this deck. I could try and win the game this turn. I'm going to sacrifice the Raucous Theater. I'm going to sacrifice this Mountain, which is a little bit awkward. I think we should have used the Badlands to cast our Greater Gargadon. Cast out, paying its mana cost. This will come in with haste as well. If you got a Hydroblast, you probably want to use it. Sink into Stupor. Okay. That's a little bit annoying. But we still get to crack in for 2 here. And we have our engine where you can just machine gun stuff down. I'm not even going to play out the Greater Gargadon here. Just get to machine gun at end step. And Orcish Bowmasters. Okay, that's something that we can machine gun down pretty handily. Can target my face. And a Mockingbird. Okay, I'm going to sacrifice this Forsaken Mire. Bring it back. I'm going to sacrifice this Forsaken Mire. And bring it back. Are you going to have a Forsaken Mire of your own? You are. Okay. They can't block. And we are the aggro here. And get this guy back. Shenanigans. Not the best, but our current setup is just fine to win this game. We're just going to kill this Forsaken Mire now, because our opponent can use it to get a ninja into play. And if they don't play creatures, we get to ping them for loads. Brainstorm, you got it. We know they have this Fatal Push. They could try and take our Forsaken Mire out at an awkward time, so we do need to leave 1 mana available to play around that, otherwise we kind of lose all of our pressure. But if they tap out, we can take out that guy. A Thoughtseize. Yeah, you can lose 2 life, opponent. This might just be trying to gain more information before we go to the game 3. It's possible. We took our Sheoldred's Edict, makes sense to me. I'm going to tap out for a guy here. It's a Brainstorm. So they play a guy, we get a point of damage through. They've conceded. The power of these 2 cards is genuinely quite good. Do I like how we've sideboarded here? I think so. We show them the Shenanigans. It is what it is. I would like to find some more lands. The rest of this hand is pretty cool, and we're on the draw. I'm going to keep this. This gives us a removal spell for the first creature as well. I don't want to get Thoughtseized. It's an island, so we're not getting Thoughtseized, just a Ponder. Oh, it's a Tamiyo. Okay. You can have your stupid Tamiyo. It's going to ruin our day. Right, suspend the Gargadon. And we can claim the Firstborn, this Tamiyo. Maybe. They might just flip this into a guy, which is also fine for us. It depends which guy, actually. If it's Uriko, then we can steal the Uriko. But if it's the Ingenious Infiltrator, it's mana value 4. So I'd rather see Uriko if they're going to turn this into anything else. Oh, it's the Infiltrator. The annoying one for us. Okay. Can we draw a land? That would be real good here. Of course, we did not draw a land. Which is always a possibility. We did keep this hand knowing that it could go wrong for us on that front. I just like the ability to be able to remove a creature and have this impending threat kicking around. So this can block and stop them getting a card, and we can just sack it to the Gargadon, so we're getting some value out of this familiar. If we play a Harbinger of the Seas here, we're cooked. Yep, in comes a ninja. We block. We sacrifice. And we move on. 3 mana. What are they going to play for 3 mana? They could just hardcast a Yuriko. Baleful Strix. We can steal this. I would rather steal the Tamiyo though, because this is a thing that is very scary for us to try and play against. Did not find the land. Well, that's on us, I suppose. Let's steal this Tamiyo. We get a clue. It's entirely possible our opponent has counter magic for this. Check in with the Tamiyo. Get ourselves a clue. Right, they're going to block it themselves, but we would rather lose a counter off of our Greater Gargadon. The problem is this Ingenious Infiltrator is just going to be howling mining us into the dirt. It's going to be a Yuriko, just another Ingenious Infiltrator. So they're going to draw 4 cards this turn because each one sees the other one because it's whenever an injury you control. So we cannot beat this level of card advantage. Our opponent has drawn a third of their deck already this game. We just can't get off of 1 mana. Grafdigger's Cage. Yep, that's very good. We did surmise they would have this. We have an answer for it in our deck. Explosives for 0. Okay. We're going to play a Witch's Oven here. We're going to play a Cauldron Familiar. Probably just a Cauldron Familiar. So we can stop them getting cards. They only draw 2 cards instead of 4. We just kind of got to chuck a bunch of stuff into the Gargadon. And maybe they don't have the answer for it and it can do enough work to kill them. It's incredibly unlikely that this resolves though. Because it is, you cast it when it comes off suspend. Our opponent's had plenty of time to sculpt a hand that can deal with that. Murderous Cut on this guy. This is going to draw them more cards. I suspect they just have a Hydroblast or a Force of Will ready to go. Kaito, Bane of Nightmares. They pump this. All their guys get to attack for more damages. Yeah. I think Ninjas is the deck that uses Kaito the best, which isn't a surprise because it's a ninja deck. But Kaito is just inherently strong. I don't necessarily think it's the best deck with the Kaito in, but it does use the card better than anyone else. We took a bit of a gamble on this one lander. We had like 3 or 4 1-drops we could play, 3 1-drops. And we're on the draw, so there was a chance that we could maybe, find a land at some point. Now I think it's just too late. Anything we play here is going to get tapped down. This is lethal next turn anyway. Even if we play a guy, they tap it down, we're just dead. Ugh, that was a horrible showing there. That was our deck failing us. Maybe we should play an additional land in that. Maybe we can just squeeze in another Raucous Theater, and then it's kind of like playing half a spell, half a land. But yeah, a bit of a rough one today. We're getting close. We're losing 2-1 in all of these rounds. So we're playing competitive games of Magic that are just going the other way because of like One Ring or Tamiyo being too strong for us to beat. All right, on to round number 4. We're into round 4 and we are on the play. I think I'm going to keep this hand. Lead off on the Gargadon, I think. And then we can go Stitch a Supplier, maybe sack it to the Gargadon, try and get something moving that way. Because Gargadon is our engine. If we suspend it, it can't be removed. They can't interfere with this. They're not going to be running like Pool from Eternity or Rift Sweeper. Those are just not cards that see play. A Thoughtseize. Yep, we didn't want our Gargadon to be Thoughtseize, so I think it was the correct thing to play first. They're going to take the Stitch a Supplier here because this is an enabler. That's going to leave us with Cauldron Familiar and a bunch of lands, which isn't ideal. But we're going to be able to cast anything we draw this game. Not the one we wanted there. I will deploy a little Pussycat to drain our opponent for 1. And then we're going to Surveil land. I guess we could have done this... No, there's no way we could have done this cleaner, actually. Because if we Surveil a Bloodghast in, we can't get it back anyway. Please just Thoughtseize me twice this turn. That'd be nice. We're slightly struggling to draw the right distribution of lands and spells with this deck. Here is Raucous Theater. Cabal Therapy. We could put this on top and then just fire it in, but I don't think that's that good. In the graveyard, it's kind of like drawing a card anyway. And we do need to find some actual proper action here. We're going to Fatal Push our cat. Oh, I clicked through that. We're supposed to sacrifice it to the Gargadon. I misclicked there. Oh, deck. Why are you doing this to me? I'll play this Bloodstained Mire in case we need to fetch a basic mountain for some reason. I hope we're not going to regret having this 1 counter not there on this guy. We could have had this down to 7 by now. A brainstorm from our opponent. I like to see a brainstorm when there's not a Tamiyo on the field. That's something we can all appreciate here. It's kind of weird that this land isn't a snow swamp, considering it's just a big icy, frozen over winter scene. We got a Bloodstained Mire and a pass. We don't have another Surveil land, so this is just going to stay in play. Feels like our opponent is some kind of potentially fair deck, although they could just be Reanimated that's struggling to get its pieces together. Let's play a 1 mana 2/2. I don't think I want... Actually, no, we do Cabal Therapy because it's basically free. What would they not be playing in this situation is the question. So they brainstorm some cards away. They're going to shuffle them in a second. That's Cabal Therapy. Sacrificing this guy. This guy comes back on his own. What are we naming with this Cabal Therapy? They not have played in a blue-black deck like this. I don't think they're Doomsday because we've seen the Fatal Push. I don't think they're Reanimated because of the Fatal Push. I think they're a fair deck. So what might they have in hand? Force of Will and Kaito are the two things that spring to mind as things that we want to deal with. Which of them am I more scared of? We don't actually have any spells to resolve. So I think we're just going to name Kaito Bane of Nightmares here. Brazen Borrower, Tamiyo, Bowmasters. Alright, things are going to get less than ideal for us next turn. So we're probably going to see a Brazen Borrowers. Sorry, not Brazen Borrower. An Orcish Bowmaster come in this turn. Nope, they're just valuing the Surveil land more than getting threats in play. There is a Wasteland. We do not care one iota about that card. We're getting Thoughtseize. I will take that free shock that makes them discard a card. They knew all of the cards bar this Marsh Flats, I think. So there is a Tamiyo, and they can just turn this into a Planeswalker right now, if they want to. They could also just wait until our turn, so they can get a free block off. Alright, this is big game here. Play this land out. I'm going to deploy. So we have perfect information of our opponent's hand. We get to attack here. Alright, we're going to see a Bowmasters. You got it. They're going to ping this. We can just wipe their board here. So I will sacrifice this, and I will ping this Bowmasters. And then we'll resolve our Bloodstained Mire. We'll go and get a Badlands. And I'll sacrifice this. I'll ping this Tamiyo. And then we'll go and get another Badlands. And then I will sacrifice this Forsaken Mine to the Gargadon. This gives us a ping, which brings back our Forsaken Miner. Alright, now we're pod racing. This is great. This comes back. This gets pinged for a second one. I'll sacrifice this Forsaken Miner again. We'll ping this Tamiyo down. We'll bring back the Miner. I enjoy this play pattern a great deal. They won't get a Orc army off of this Bowmaster because there's no target for it. So we wiped our opponent's board there. Maybe they were playing around us having... No, they knew what we had, right? Once we played the Mayhem Devil, they had perfect information. So they weren't playing around a Bowmaster or something. They are significantly behind here. Another Tamiyo. They've got a Swamp up. So they can play some black spells. Our engine that we're using to sacrifice stuff is going away soon. I'm going to play this Badlands out first, and then I'm going to Thoughtseize my opponent. We've got at least one thing we're happy to take in the Borrower. A Borrower and a Force of Will. So we take the Borrower and leave them with a Force of Will they can't cast. And then we probably just kill our opponent this turn. So we sacrifice this guy. We get a ping on the Tamiyo. We get back the Forsaken Miner. And then with this still on the stack, we sacrifice the Miner again. Ping the Tamiyo. Get back the Miner. Then we sacrifice the Miner. Ping the Tamiyo for the third and final time. And these triggers haven't resolved yet. So we can continue sacrificing this Forsaken Miner and ping our opponent to death. This is one of the tricks I mentioned with Gargadon before, where you can stack the triggers in a way that you always get to do as many times as you need in that one little moment. This puts our opponent to 12. These resolve, and then we cast our Gargadon. Actually, do we need to cast? So this is 9, 10, 11, 12. So this is lethal anyway, but we might as well sacrifice a land while we're here for good measure. Just ping our opponent's face. We know that this is all going to work. 9, 10, 11, 12. Our opponent has nothing going on. This will have haste. That was pretty clean in textbook. I enjoyed that a great deal. Our opponent is probably going to have some stuff they want to claim with the Firstborn. They might have some stuff that we want to Pyroblast, like a Murktide Regent, which can be a little bit tricky for us to deal with if we don't have Eumidian Hatchery going. I like the hand disruption as part of it here. So maybe we trim a Souls of the Lost. The Witch's Oven is another way of sacrificing things that we steal. We definitely want to have the ability to sacrifice stuff. We might need a Shenanigans in case they have a Grafdigger's Cage. Maybe we can just trim on a bunch of numbers here. Maybe Cabal Therapy isn't as good as a Thoughtseize. So we can trim on that one. I don't really want to trim on the miners. We can trim on a cat. That gets us these 4. Or we could do something that looks like this. And if we want these other 2 cards, or the other 3 cards, we'd have to find more space. Maybe we can trim a Stitcher Supplier, and that gets us a second Claim of the Firstborn to go with our 2 Pyroblasts here. Try something along these lines. We don't want to overboard. We have this combo, which I really like. We have the mana to use these things. We have a SAC outlet. This is pretty solid. We get to Thoughtseize and Cabal Therapy. Our opponent strip away a bunch of their resources. They might Thoughtseize us first. They should take... They did not Thoughtseize us first. Okay. We would like to Thoughtseize our opponent's turn, I think. Let's see what you're working with. Probably going to be taking something like a Brainstorm off of our opponent. Kaito, Bane of Nightmares, and another Tamiyo. Intriguing. I guess we take the Kaito. So next turn we can Cabal Therapy, take their Tamiyo. Claim of the Firstborn their Tamiyo. Cabal Therapy, whatever the other card in their hand might be. There's a Wasteland. You're just going to give us a guy right now. That's a pretty reasonable thing to do. They can attack and get a clue. I will be blocking. Not that it matters here, but that's fine. Going to get a basic Swamp here. I'm going to Cabal Therapy my opponent. I'm going to name Tamiyo. I'm not going to flash this back for obvious reasons. And we can make decisions with what we're doing with our mana next turn. We're quite far ahead. They do have clues, obviously they can start cracking. Did they draw a Brainstorm is the question. If they did draw a Brainstorm, this could get a little bit sketchy. I think we're just going to play on basics. I thought we were getting stifled for a second then. We'll go and get a mountain. I will Claim of the Firstborn this creature. And go to attacks. Now I will Cabal Therapy my opponent, sacrificing their Tamiyo. I'm going to name Barrogoyf, I think. Murktide Regent, that was the other one I was thinking of naming. We're going to name one of their threats at that point. Now I think we can just play out this Forsaken Miner. And we're in a pretty good spot right now. This Murktide Regent doesn't really have very good stuff to feed upon. We can get the Goblin Bombardment down. We don't have a lot of black mana, so this isn't really going to be the powerful loop that it can sometimes be. I think it was right to fetch our one-off mountain just so we can't get wasted off of red when we have a bunch of red cards in hand. But it does mean that we're worse trying to do our thing. So they're going to take this Greater Gargadon, I assume. Which is our main way of sacrificing lands in our deck. So it's going to be harder to get Eumidian Hatchery going, but we've already been through a hatchery and we don't have one available right now. I'm surprised that they didn't play out the Polluted Delta and go and get an Undercity Sewers. I believe we have permanent information, so this is a good time to crack this clue token. I guess we should attack first just in case I've somehow lost track of things. Let's crack this. If we find a discard spell, we can take that Murktide Regent out. Tis not to be, we'll just play a Badlands and pass. We've got the clock, we've got a Bombardment, which is going to be useful in the near future. It's going to be very hard for them to take us off of both of these Goblin Bombardments. So now they're getting in for that Surveil land action. Another Forsaken Miner. Let's try a Goblin Bombardment. Play land, let's crack in for 3 here, and then we're going to play the other Miner. Then we have 1 ping next turn. We have 1 ping this turn, and then 3 pings next turn. So I don't believe this Murktide Regent is going to be enough. So we have 3 pings, 4, 5 pings, effectively. So this is lethal damage that we have in play. So our opponent's going to have to deploy that Murktide Regent. We can attack into it, sack whatever they block. I think we are looking all right. This is much more how I drew this deck up working. We got to do the Claim the Firstborn thing as well. Just good fun stuff. A swamp. This is a land we didn't know about, so they're showing us something new. Black and black. A Dalthy Voidwalker. They've got 1 mystery card in hand. I'm going to, in response, ping my opponent and get this back to maximise the damages. We could ping a couple of times here and then Goblin Bombardment something else and we have mana up and we can still bring them back because they'll be in the yard. But I think this is just the best way of going about this right now. They're dazing their own Dalthy Voidwalker. This is so that they can get a slightly bigger Murktide Regent. So our opponent's on 8. We can ping them for 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 5. Sorry, 1, 2, 3. We bring these 2 back. 3, 4, 5. We ping them 4. Or we can attack. We get 3 damage through. So it ends up being the same, but we have more material to ping at them afterwards. So we're going to see the Murktide Regent come down here. They've got 2 things to pump it. I don't think the size of the Murktide matters, especially unless they can suddenly find a way of turning this. Oh, they're very, very close to dead. We don't need a lot to get over the finish line. Stitcher's Supplier is an interesting one, isn't it? We'll attack with our creatures here. This is a replacement effect, so we won't get a window where we can bring this back. So I take 4 here. I go to 3. We resolve a creature and our opponent dies. Right, we're pinging them with our remaining creatures, and that is going to be the game. Beautiful stuff. A nice 2-0 after all of our 1-2 losses. It's nice to finally put one on the board. I do feel like our deck deserves more than the wins we've put on so far. We've got 1 round to go, though. We can still get a 2-3. Now, we're currently 5-6 in games, so it's pretty close. Anyway, let's go to the final round, see if we can get a 2-3. 1 land, it's a hatchery. What does this hand do? We're on the play. I don't think I can keep this on the play. I'm going to mulligan. This is a much nicer looking hand. We can keep this. I think we've probably been off one of the ovens. I think we can start on a basic swamp here. Thoughtseize our opponent. Oh, cool. Stinkweed Imp, Thassa's Oracle, Lion's Eye Diamond, Breakthrough. I'm not going to take the Stinkweed Imp. We either take the Breakthrough or the Lion's Eye Diamond, which actually ends up being better for us. If we take the Breakthrough, they can put all this in and then slow dredge a bunch. Although it's not going to be that slow because they get to Cephalid Colosseum. They'd have to wait another turn for it if they're doing Lion's Eye Diamond. I think it's the Breakthrough, actually. So they can just go ham with a Lion's Eye Diamond if they want to. They're going to play this out. I don't think they're going to crack it this turn. I think they want to get their second Colosseum down. Okay, let's Stitcher's Supplier. Let's pop out a graveyard as well. I think we get the Forsaken Miner in. The downside of this is if our opponent can strip away our Witch's Oven, we might lose a sack effect, which could be a way of getting rid of Bridge from Belows. So now they play out their Cephalid Colosseum. 1. So they got 5 cards in hand. Okay, they're going now. So they're going to Cephalid Colosseum and dredge a little bit. They're getting Anarch Amoeba. Let's pop their graveyard out as well, because this is going to be an important zone. Pretty good set of dredges there. They've got some big boys in. They've got Bridge from Below. A Mayhem Devil is going to be real good against what our opponent's doing. So they get to crack both Cephalid Colosseums here because of the Lion's Eye Diamond. I was kind of hoping that we'd hit some hand disruption to maybe stop this, but we should be losing to Dredge. Like, Dredge should be winning game 1 against most decks most of the time. Certainly a deck like ours, which is some way on the fair spectrum. But we're kind of punished for not playing out as Witch's Oven now because they're going to get a bunch of guys. Do they have access to a Dread Return? If they do, they win the game this turn. Like, there isn't one in there because they could Dread Return the Satoru, which then will let them dredge, and then all the creatures that come in from the dredge then dredge them more, and then they basically dredge their entire deck. We're going to lose all the cards in our hand. I think there's enough Cabal Therapies in there to do that, and they're going to make a massive board. So we lose the Mayhem Devil. We did name the Mayhem Devil off the Cabal Therapy as well. But they saw one, and they also realised that would be a very good card for us to have. So now they sacrifice the Cabal Therapy to this. I think we're just dead here. I don't think we overcome this. We may as well just save our time and go to game 2 and bring in our Nihil Spellbombs. Nihil Spellbombs, there we go. Pyroblast is kind of interesting against some of their things. I like the ability to stop their breakthroughs and careful studies. Do I like it enough to bring Pyroblast in is the question. I like our hand disruption on the play. This is the maybe. Let's see if we can cut to fit the Nihil Spellbombs in first. So the Cauldron Familiar is a little bit slow. We don't really need that super grindy value. We need to make sure we don't lose the game immediately. So we'll ditch that off to begin with. The Mayhem Devil is very good here. We can maybe take out Souls of the Lost. Maybe it's just a second Familiar. I still like having the Witch's Oven as a 4-of. I don't think we have room for Pyroblast in this situation. Thoughtseize into Witch's Oven. Okay. I think we can keep this one. We know that our land isn't going to be wastelanded or anything, so we have that going for us. And we do have Cat Oven combo, which can just make sure the Bridge from Belows never get to do anything. We're hoping that our opponent has to mulligan a little bit, and maybe we can snipe out the thing that matters. We have 3 Nihil Spellbombs. I don't think it's correct to mulligan till we hit a Spellbomb. I think it's best if we have either a Spellbomb or like a Witch's Oven. I think those are the things we're looking for because this gives us at least ways of interacting with their Bridge from Below, and we also have the Thoughtseize to boot. I think this hand is fine. I would prefer a better hand, but this one is acceptable on the play. Bridge from Below, Golgari Grave Troll, Otherworldly Gaze. So if we take out the Otherworldly Gaze, it's going to be a while before we have to worry about anything happening. That is a relatively weak hand, but the Dredge deck has to keep hands a little like this, I think. I'd really like to draw a land this turn. Did not draw a land. I think the play here is Witch's Oven. Just get our SAC outlet ready to roll. Bricking on the land there is annoying. Our opponent probably thinks we've got like a really good piece of graveyard hate if we kept a one lander here. So they're going to flash back this Otherworldly Gaze at some point. Still no land though. Alright, let's get the cat oven going. So no Bridge from Below for our opponent. They can certainly win without Bridge from Below, but this will make things slightly more challenging. We need this Otherworldly Gaze to be bad. If they don't find a Dredger, that would be good. They're only looking at 3 cards. They have like, what, 12-ish Dredgers? Stinkweed Imp and Cabal Therapy, and they left one on top. So they're probably going to draw this card they left on top rather than dredge, and now they're going to do something that draws them a bunch of cards. Careful Study, that's pretty good. There is a Bridge from Below. When is the correct time for us to do the cat oven? We could do it in response to them sacrificing something. This is an intervening if clause on this. So we do it now, we sweep the bridges. So they won't get any tokens here. What are you going to name here? Fairy Macabre? Probably something along that line, I would imagine. They named Surgical Extraction, yeah, so similar but different. Narcomoeba from hand, sure. They're thinking about Cabal Therapying us. And they would like to. What do they name here? Stitcher Supplier, probably? Oh, they named the Gargadon. We don't have red mana for that, so I'm okay with that one. Let's sacrifice his food, get back the little kitty cat. We're going to attack first. I could get 2 power in now, or I could get Stitcher's Supplier in. I think I like getting the Supplier in because this maybe finds us some more action. Did not find us any action. Now they still can bring back Poxwalkers. Poxwalkers are 3/1s, so if we can get something that pings for 1 into play, we can deal with that. And then the main thing we have to worry about is the Satoru combo. No Satoru in there just yet. 3 mana. It's going to be a flashback on the Faithless Looting. It's good. I think we are going to lose this one. But I said that before and we have won games. But it feels a little bit awkward. So there's no Satoru there. They can get back the Narcomoeba. There's an argument to sacrifice a Stitcher's Supplier instead of the Cauldron Familiar in case it gets us some more action, like some Bloodghast that we can bring back. But I do quite like this as a body that can just trade with the Poxwalkers. I think this game is going to be about us finding a... Okay, so this comes in here. We sacrifice our Cauldron Familiar. We strip out the bridges. I think this is going to be about whether or not we find our Nihil Spellbomb. Because if we can shut down their graveyard at the right time, I think we can beat their fair aggro plan. Because we're not going to lose to Bridge from Below. So they're not going to have millions and millions of guys. It's going to be 4 Poxwalkers and other stuff. They named Cauldron Familiar. Sure. We don't get them both back by sacrificing 1 food, sadly. Now Spellbomb, please. Witch's Oven. This is pretty useful. So now we can do the cat oven thing twice every turn cycle. We just really need to find our Nihil Spellbomb though. Otherwise we're going to lose to their we dredge our whole library and then you die thing. Okay, so I have Leyline in the Void. That's good to know if we get a game 3. Still no Satoru. There is a Faithless Looting here, which is probably going to dredge most of their deck at this point. So we need them to be a little bit unlucky, or they might have boarded out the combo angle. If they board out the combo angle, then we're actually okay. Although we have seen the Thassa's Oracle. So they can do that even without Satoru next turn. Dread Return. Targeting Ox of Agonis. This turn, I think we do, right? So draw 3 cards here. And then they bring back the Narcomoeba. They have 3 blue pips. And we just never drew our second land or the Nihil Spellbomb. Second land might not have helped that much either, to be honest. We did need the Spellbomb. So now they're empty. Okay, so they dredged a Thug, I think. And then they drew the other 2 cards. So this is going to give them a win with a Thassa's Oracle. GG's opponent. That is the end of the match and the league. We finished with a pretty poor 1-4 record. However, we lost 3 rounds to either Flood or Mana Screw. So these 3 rounds very easily could have gone the other way. They were 1-2s, they were really close. This was a 1-4 league, but it could have very easily been a 4-1 league. That last round we did just get bodied and we had no recourse, but we absolutely smashed the blue-black tempo player in round 4 as well. I think the deck accounted for itself quite nicely, even though the record looks poor. So let's take a look at this list. I love what this deck is doing. We did run into a couple of problems here and there with our mana. I don't really know how we're supposed to fix that, unless we're going into running something like Faithless Looting, where we can kind of smooth through our draws a little bit, and the discard effect is kind of negligible because we'll be discarding like Miners, Familiars, Cabal Therapies, Bloodghast. We've got a bunch of stuff that we're okay to dump in the bin, as well as excess lands. So maybe we could run some Faithless Looting to like smooth things through. Also gives us a little bit of stuff to do in the mid game. If we're sort of like tanking out, we can then flash it back and do that sort of jazz. However, it's not a card that improves the quality of Souls of the Lost, so this would get worse if we were to add them in. I think the things that I would probably want in this list is another Goblin Bombardment. This card was amazing. This is also one of my favourite Magic cards ever printed. Not this particular art one though. This is what I think of when I think of Goblin Bombardment. Just little guys. Anyway, the Goblin Bombardment is great. It's a really powerful engine. I think trimming a Goblin Bombardment for something like one of these Souls of the Lost might make sense. The other thing you could add into this deck if you want to is Bowmasters and 2 Hogaks. That'd be 6 more slots you'd have to find. So where you put them in, I'm really not sure. I think Stitcher Supplier is better than running Faithless Looting. This is kind of doing a similar job to Faithless Looting in terms of filling up our graveyard with stuff that we get to use again. But the Stitcher Supplier gets to be a creature that we can then sacrifice, and it kind of plays into all of our synergies quite nicely. I kind of want to have a Rakdos Theater, like a second Rakdos Theater in here, so when we're getting our fetch lands, we can still do stuff. I don't think we want to be trying to do anything with like Buried Alive, where we can put like 2 Bloodghast and a Forsaken Miner and just get engines going that way. I think that's too expensive for what we want to do. We do need to have access to Thoughtseize. I guess the place we could potentially trim is the Witch's Oven Cauldron Familiar. I don't think we need 4 Cauldron Familiars, but this combo is so good against any fair deck that's trying to attack you on the ground. So like Barragoyce just get absolutely ruined by it. You can just really mess with people's combat mass in a huge way. When we played this list against Phil on our little head-to-head challenge we did win that matchup, and he was playing against the... He was playing the red-white energy deck, but with Reckless Pyro Surfer, and we managed to beat them because we had all these pings that was really powerful. We had a way of stopping them gaining life over and over again, which was really, really clutch and actually ended up winning us the game because of it. So I do like what this can do, but maybe we can just ease off on these and have a couple more things to smooth things through in there. Maybe we can like trim 1 and 1, get another Goblin Bombardment, get a couple of Faithless Lootings in by cutting one of the Souls of the Lost. Oh, this was massive one, like when we actually had it. It was definitely a useful enabler. We don't really have other ways of sacrificing lands other than the Gargadon. So I think having more than 4 is where you want to be, but maybe 7, we don't need that many. But whenever we sacked the Hatchery, it was just like absolutely backbreaking. Another thing I like about Gargadon is the fact that your opponent can't counterspell this. When you suspend it, it's just suspended. So this is a SAC engine that they can't interact with whilst it's suspended. So that's just a really good way of getting everything up and running. Sideboard-wise, I think we could definitely tweak this a little bit. I did want to play Claim the Firstborn because it's fun. Is it necessary is the question, because we're really good against Barragoyce anyway. So maybe stealing Barragoyce isn't actually the place we want to be. As much fun as it is to steal someone's like Tamio and throw it at them, that did feel amazing. But maybe this is just a bit win more, and we should just have maybe more Nihil Spellbombs and just like try and attack the graveyard a bit more. Maybe have something a little bit more for combo decks. We could have like another Pyroblast. We can hit show and tells and things like that. And then sort of have a combination of like the Nihil Spellbombs and Pyroblast to handle some things, then discard to handle the rest. There is something with this deck we have to take in mind though. Legacy is kind of defined by a few things at the moment. You're either playing Tamio, the One Ring, or a deck that can kill your opponent on turn 3 or 4. That's kind of what Legacy is for the most part at the moment. Now, Control decks did have a big pickup at Eternal Weekend, which is kind of interesting, but that's not really my experience online at all. So maybe in paper this deck ends up being a bit better because the format's going to be slower, you're going to be able to grind through with what you've got here, because we have some really powerful grinding engines. We can beat some fair decks very well because we've just got non-stop value. However, we probably need a little bit more to help versus what the online meta looks like. Whether or not those two metas gravitate towards each other as time goes by is hard to say, but we could definitely do with a little bit more graveyard hate, not just because we lost to a graveyard deck in the last round, but we only have turn 1 graveyard hate. We probably want some turn 0 graveyard hate, like Surgicals or Fairy Macabre, that sort of thing. I kind of like the Fairy Macabre because we can play it as a creature and then sacrifice it later on, which does have text with what we're trying to do. So that's probably where I would go if we're stripping out the Claim the Firstborn, maybe stick a couple of Fairy Macabre in there to help things along. I don't know if we want the full 3. The Sheoldred's Edict is kind of an interesting one. Do we even need this? We could just replace this with Molten Collapse, but we did have a moment where we could have held this up. Well, actually, we held up at instant speed a couple of times, which is handy, but maybe Molten Collapse just does the job a little bit better and could also handle some of the other bits and pieces that might get in our way, because Molten Collapse can deal with Grafdigger's Cage as well. So I think if I was to rejigger this one, we'd probably get rid of this Sheoldred's Edicts and have some Molten Collapses stuck in there. For those who are unaware, Molten Collapse is destroy target creature or planeswalker, or destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less. But if you descended, which is where a card was put into your graveyard from anywhere, then you get both. And putting cards into graveyard from anywhere is very much our jam. So I think Molten Collapse is probably an upgrade on these, even though it's slightly more difficult to cast. I don't think we're particularly bothered by Blood Moons and things happening to us. We can play through them somewhat. We just need 1 black source, and then we're kind of away. Leyline in the Void is something that we're going to not really be able to beat. But the decks that tend to run Leyline in the Void tend to be combo decks themselves. So if we can beat their combo angle and just play like a fair, like medium creature plan, and just play some guys out, that's probably fine. And Mayhem Devil, even though your guys aren't going into your graveyard if there's a Leyline in play, you're still sacrificing them, so you're still getting the pings. So I think this is a deck that looks solid enough. It needs some tweaks, but I really enjoy the play patterns, and I'm probably going to revisit this one. I would like to know in the comments if you have any thoughts on how we can tweak this. I would also like to know if you'd like to see it again on the channel. When I play a deck I like, I want to make sure that everyone else is liking it too. So by all means, give me a message in the comments. Let me know if you like this deck and you want me to work on it. I do enjoy having little projects that I go back to and tweak every now and then on the channel. This could certainly be one of them. Let me know if that is the case. All right. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to buy any of these sweet cards like Forsaken Miner and Mayhem Devil, check out 341 Trading. The link is in the description. They support me and help my channel actually function as a thing that I can do for a job. So please go and spend some money with them. It means a lot to me. And if you want to spend some money on me, I have a Patreon and I have a YouTube membership where you can see my videos early from as little as $1 a month. But you can give more if you want to. There are higher tiers if you just want to say, I like your content. You give me hours of entertainment, have a few extra dollars. By all means, do that if you can. Anyway, plugs over and done with. I hope you enjoyed this one. I certainly did. Goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel. A mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles. And lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.